Hey guys, welcome to the No Grade Podcast. I am your host, Ariana, and this is our first episode launching the No Grade Podcast. I'm so excited, and extremely nervous. Yeah, extremely nervous. Because this is something that God has definitely been pressing on me to do for the past 3 years, and I've ran away from it for a really long time. So, yeah, I guess instead of me asking God for what should I be doing next, I should probably do the last thing he told me, right? So, here we are. This is the No Grade Podcast. My prayer is that the No Grade Podcast will encourage you, uplift you, edify you, and draw you closer to him one episode at a time. So, let's lock in. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, I guess what I wanted to talk about, because I saw a video on Instagram and it was a young man. He's actually a Christian rapper. Hold on, let me get his name real quick because his music is so good. Like, you guys need to lock in. His name is pronounced, I think, Mike Malagies. I don't know. This is it right here. That's his name. But basically, yeah, I follow Jesus above. Okay. Most times you hear a testimony when someone shares their testimony. I notice nowadays it's a very dramatic one. Unfortunately, people go through so much. Like, let's talk about that. Let's pause right there. The things that people go through, some of the pain and trauma that people go through is literally incomprehensible at times. Like, when you hear people's story, it's like you question, like, what was going on? Where were their parents? Who loved these people? And yeah, of course, we're grateful that they're on the other side, right? But most times I feel like when I hear a testimony, people it's dramatic ones, honestly. Not dramatic. Let me say traumatic testimonies. It's people that have been like, "You know what? I serve God now, but I used to be a witch and I was fornicating, I was smoking weed, I was doing tarot cards, I was doing rituals, I was doing sacrifice or whatever it is." And then they came to God. Or, "Oh, I had 15 abortions. I was a Jezebel. I was this, I was that. I murdered someone. I shot at people. I was in a gang and this, that, and the third." And when I hear these testimonies, I'm like, sheesh, like, these people have been through it, but look at their walk. Look how God changed them. So Mike was sharing on that Instagram post, he was basically sharing that he doesn't have that story. Like, his story his testimony is that God actually kept him from those things. And I was like, that's a word. So when I hear these testimonies, I'm like, man, what a testimony. And I gotten to a point where it's like, that's the only testimonies I really choose to listen to. So it just had me thinking, like, why don't we share boring testimonies? What if your testimony isn't that? So it just had me thinking, maybe I should share mine. But I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking my testimony is boring. Like, honestly, I was thinking to God that my testimony is kind of boring. Like, why would somebody want to hear? And he reminded me of Revelation 12, verse 11. It says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the power of our testimony. You already know I have to check because sometimes I say a verse and it's like, girl, that's not it. Okay, so Romans 12:11. Um and they have defeated him by the blood of the lamb and by their testimony. And I know that this testimony in at this point in the text, is talking about Jesus Christ. I know it's not referring to my testimony, but I still feel like that verse is so impactful. So basically, my testimony is this. I grew up in church. Um, I was raised by my two Jamaican parents, also meaning no nonsense parents. They are were not playing, but one thing that I give God thanks for with my parents is that they were the first people to share Jesus with me. And I think that's one thing that I will forever be grateful for is that I had parents that cared enough to tell me about the one who saved them from the pit. So basically I was raised in church all my life. I grew up in church. And I grew up in the Pentecostal church, so the shouting, the clapping, the falling out with the sheets, like we grew up with that. So over time, I'll say that God was always dealing with me. I feel like from the time I was small until now, God has always been dealing with me. My parents would tell me that from the time I was like 5 or 6 years old, like something that God definitely gifted me was prayer. They would set up the whole table because we would eat dinner together, and my mom would say, "Ari, do you want to bless the table?" And my mom said by the time I was done praying, the food was cold because I was praying for everybody, neighbors, friends, distant family, close family members, calling out names from the time I was 6. And I feel like God definitely, like I said, was dealing with me, but um I feel like as much as I thought I knew him, I didn't. Growing up, I remember while I was in elementary school, throughout middle school and high school, I knew I was different. And at times I saw the fact that I was different, that God set me apart as a punishment. I saw it as rejection and not as his protection. I wanted so badly to fit in. I would say the cringiest stuff. Like now I look back and unfortunately I have flashbacks at random times. Like just thinking about the stuff that I said and the things I did, and it's so cringy, bro. Like I don't know why I was such a cringy kid. But anyways, I just wanted attention so badly. I wanted to be popular so badly. I wanted to be seen so badly, not realizing there was someone in heaven that has seen me, loved me, before I was even ever formed in my mother's womb. But of course, like I said, I thought I knew Christ and I really didn't. I remember at times I would go into certain friend groups throughout high school, middle school, and elementary school and be in a group. And if somebody said a curse word or somebody said something provocative, there would be somebody in the group, whether it was my friend or even a random person, that would be like, hey, don't say that around Ariana. Hey, watch your mouth. Mind you, they cursed too. But just because I was in their presence, it's like they wanted to protect my innocence. Or God gave them a revelation of myself that I never saw. I never saw myself as set apart, but an unbeliever or someone that was not in the faith, whoever, was able to see something about me that I never saw. Um, yeah, I gave my life to Christ when I was 11 at a Christian summer camp. Shout out to Lighthouse Baptist Church summer camp for pushing and instilling that the children of that camp give their life to Christ. That was so important, and I will forever be grateful for that. I was bullied a lot, I'll say, in school. Bullied a lot. I was bullied mostly for my size and my voice. I was bullied for my height because I was smaller than most kids. Um, and like tremendously smaller than most kids. Um, when I was, I think, 14 years old, when I actually ended up having to go to a specialist that deals with child development and growth. Um, and they checked my bone age at like 13 or 14. I had the bone age of I had the bone age of an 8-year-old. I was very underdeveloped. My voice was extremely squeaky because even though I was growing up, like maturing, my body wasn't catching up to what was happening on the inside. I don't know if that makes any sense, but basically I needed medication. So I ended up taking medication for a few years to help me grow. It was an injection every day um that I had to basically like Ozempic, but it had growth hormones. At times dealing with that was hard, but I still just wanted everyone to like me. That's something I definitely struggled with. Was having everyone like me or having this idea that everyone is going to like me. So, I went through some rejection in school. I never had a boyfriend in middle school or high school. My first boyfriend I had was like, I think I was 23, maybe. I've never had a boyfriend, nothing, especially with my Jamaican parents, like they weren't having that either. So I went through a lot of feeling like I was rejected. I went through some rejection, and just always feeling like what was wrong with me. It's easy to see man's no as rejection, not realizing it's God's protection because he has something better for you. But at that time I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as all the other girls and all the other people have their person, like where's mine? Um so after that medication and I grew up, I ended up growing to be 5 feet tall, lock in. But my parents are not the tallest, but um thank God the medication, everything, went fine with my body. But growing up, I just kind of felt rejected. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, certain things, that I wanted to experience relationship wise, I just didn't. And I thought it was because something was wrong with me, but it was because God has been keeping me. I've been in the palm of his hands this whole time, but I didn't see it that way. So, growing up in high school, I think the most depression that I felt was my junior year. No, my senior year. At this point, me and my sister and my nieces are a year apart. So it's my one niece, Sierra. Shout out to you if you're watching this. Um, then a year later, my sister was born, Shania, and I was born, and then my niece, that is Sierra's sister, came a year after. So when it came to going to school, we were never really apart. We were always together until my senior year when Shania and Sierra um graduated together. I can't even express to you. There are moments where I would just be in class crying and I didn't know why because I didn't know really what depression was. And growing up at times in church, I'll say the culture, especially amongst many Black people or people of color, I'll say at times I've heard, you know, that therapy or your mental health, like what's wrong with you? Go read your Bible. If you're feeling away, like why do you need to talk to someone? Go talk to God. And it's like there's a reason why God has people in place where they need to be in place. There is nothing wrong with talking to somebody. And I thank God for my mom, my Jamaican mother, who valued my mental health. And at one point, she did take me to the doctor. So I was 17 going on 18, depressed, and I didn't know why. And it was because when my sister left, she went off to college. I didn't realize how much that would affect me. I didn't realize how lonely I felt without her, how I had to figure out who I was without her. I couldn't hide behind her. I couldn't. because Shania is like a very, not that I'm not a people person, but at times there are moments in our social interactions where I feel like I was hiding behind her. Like I would want her to give the jokes and make the people laugh, and I'm just in the background laughing because, that's her. But when she left, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much that affected me. Um, I was depressed and anxiety began to fill my mind. There was just a lot on my mind. But I thank God for my mom who, like I said, valued my mental health and took me to the doctor to set me up to talk to somebody. And I ended up getting prescribed medication for depression and anxiety, as well as um, ADHD. I believe that's Adderall. So I was taking these medications for 2 weeks and I stopped because I felt awful. The symptoms that I felt full even when I was hungry. And of course, after not eating for hours, I felt nauseous, but I felt like I couldn't eat because I wasn't hungry. So I was losing weight. Um, and the medication I feel like was worsening my symptoms, which that may not be the case for everybody, but it was the case for me. So I graduated high school, thank God, at 18. And I believe it was 18 and 19. That's when I began to really take my walk with God seriously. And we ended up going to a new church. There was just so much that happened. Transitioning from a church that you grew up in is like, that's a whole nother episode. But I just feel like it was just so much in that moment, but I knew I needed more. I knew that where God was taking me, I couldn't stay where I was. So we ended up transitioning, going to another church. And I believe that's when I began to take my walk with God seriously. Just reading the word more, praying more, watching sermons online more. I ended up switching to a whole nother ministry, the one that I'm currently in now. And yeah, I just give God thanks. So basically, that's my testimony. But I guess I say that my testimony is boring because, I've never gotten drunk. I've never gotten high. I've never smoked. I've never done tarot cards or, witchcraft or anything of that nature. I've never claimed to be a part of another religion. I've never said I do Jesus and sage. I've never done any of that. I've, thank God, God has kept me this whole time to remain pure until my husband comes. Lock in. Thank God for his grace because it's not easy. But he's kept me. There's a lot of nevers for me. And I think that because of that, I felt kind of when it comes to sharing my testimony because it's like, why would people want to hear that? But something that God is helping me to overcome is that people should hear that. That people who has never done some of the stuff that I mentioned, any of the stuff I mentioned, should be encouraged because the testimony isn't that you're better than somebody. The testimony is that God kept me from those things. I could have done those things, but he kept me. He protected me. He blessed me with such a conviction in my heart that I couldn't do it. So, I just want to encourage anybody who's listening, share your testimony. Share your testimony. It may not be the I used to get drunk every weekend. I used to have this lifestyle. I used to sleep around. I've had 15 abortions. And shout out to all the people who that was your testimony and God has saved you. Like, lock in, okay? But if that's not your testimony, it may just be I grew up in church. I've been through some things, but I feel like it's not worth sharing. It is worth sharing. It's definitely worth sharing because God kept you from those things. He was faithful enough to keep you from those things. So, yeah, I just want to encourage you, lock into Jesus. I don't know how else to tell you. If you've been wondering, searching, you're not at peace, you feel like, my testimony is not that great, share it. If you feel like, I don't know about this God that you're talking about, try him out. What do you have to lose, anyways? I don't know either. So, lock in. That is the end of the No Grave podcast. And yeah, hope you guys have a blessed day. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.